Good day to our dear listeners. We are here once again to give you more knowledge about our sexual health, SOGIE, and society and culture. I am Mark, and all of my dear speakers will be joining us for today's last episode. Ay, nako, ang bilis last episode na ng podcast natin.
Kaya nga Mark, nakakatuwa at nakakasad din at the same time kasi nagawa nating makapag-podcast and all, pero it is coming to an end na.
Thankful ako sa mga patuloy na sumuporta and nakinig sa ating podcast. We really appreciate you all.
Yes, and shout out to that one person who shared his or her experience with us pala. We hope that you're doing well, and we want to tell you that you are brave for handling that kind of situation. We hope that you are now in a much safer state. And always trust your guts or instinct.
Siya lang yung nag-respond sa freedom letter natin, and we really appreciate you for trusting us. So, moving on, anong ulit pag-uusapan natin ngayon?
Buti na tanong mo dahil we will be talking more about our sexual health, SOGIE, and society and culture. Unahin na natin ang sexual health. This is not commonly focused on when it comes to one's aspects of health, but sexual health is a vital part of our whole health and well-being. It is a sensitive topic, which is why it needs to be tackled thoroughly, especially for young people. This part of our podcast hopes that after listening and understanding the sexual health sub-concepts, you will be able to practice health-promoting behaviors, identify potential sexual health-related problems, effective and correct use of contraceptives, avoid contracting or transmitting sexually transmitted disease, act consistently when dealing with an unintended pregnancy, and seek early prenatal care.
Well, to start, let us talk about our reproductive health. Nandito na yung mga reproductive organs and body parts. We need to take good care of these body parts, lalo na yung mga genitals natin, to keep it free from infections or injuries. Maganda rin dahil at a young age, kung may mga young listeners man tayo from ages 9 above, they will be able to know and practice these ways to keep their private parts clean and healthy.
Tama, dapat kahit bata pa lang alam na nating alagaan yung reproductive parts natin, di ba?
Oo nga, kasi di naman exemption sa mga sakit ang mga bata pagdating sa reproductive parts.
True. So, ano nga ba yung mga dapat natin gawin?
First, there is the vagina. Parents and trusted adults advise young girls to use mild soap or feminine wash when washing the vagina because it will help it smell good. I hate to break it to you, but washing the vagina with heavily perfumed or scented soaps, gels, or antiseptics is not advisable. Itong mga to ay maaaring maka-affect sa pH level and healthy bacteria inside the vagina.
Yan. Parang napanood ko yun sa TikTok. Hindi ko lang alam kung totoo siya. Pero, yun nga, napanood ko. Pero true naman pala ngayong sinabi mo.
Ako rin, parang nakita ko na ata yun sa TikTok eh.
Yes, totoo siya. Baka mag-cause rin yung mga ganon ng irritation at inflammation. Kasi yung masyadong matapang na scent or perfume nung sabon or gel ay nakakasira ng healthy bacteria balance ng vagina. Mas magandang gumamit ng plain, unperfumed soaps dahil yung vagina ay may sarili na rin self-cleansing fluids. Kailangan din na everyday ang paghugas sa vagina.
Paano naman kung may period? If you have a period, advisable na more than once ang paghugas mo sa inyong vagina. Since of course, having periods is quite messy, based on my experience. Important din na private areas near the vagina like the perineal area or yung part between the vagina and the anus ay nililinisan din.
Yes, tama naman yun. Pero what about sa underwear? Kasi di ba may iba't ibang types ng tela na ginagamit? So, meron bang pwedeng may advice dun or may iba-ibang effects ba yung tela or something?
Yung underwear naman na ginagamit, mas okay siguro yung cotton na tela dahil may moisture wicking ability to or yung pag-absorb ng moisture away from the skin. This can prevent bacterial growth to keep the vagina free from infections. But of course, one should also change underwear daily.
Yes, bestie. So, tapos na tayo sa vagina. Another important body part in a female's reproductive health that should be taken care of is the breast. There have been myths about breast cancers, and after doing some research, we will debunk some of them.
Ay, may nakita ako about dyan. Sa TikTok ata yun eh. Yung about sa pagsuot ng bra tapos nakaka-cause daw ng breast cancer.
Oo, one myth says that wearing bras causes breast cancer, when in reality, there have been no studies linking breast cancer and wearing bras. So it is safe to say that bras cannot cause breast cancer. Another myth is that if you do not have a family history of having breast cancer, you cannot get breast cancer. In fact, anyone can get breast cancer, but there are things you can do to reduce the risk of getting one, like maintaining a healthy weight, limiting drinking alcohol, exercising, and many more.
Oo nga, muntikan pa ako maniwala dun sa mga TikTok na nagsasabing nagkakos ng breast cancer yung pagsuot ng bra. Eh di sana halos lahat sa atin ngayon may breast cancer na, no? Pero yan nga, marami pang ibang reproductive body parts for females to take care of, pero ito yung mga basics. So, how about naman yung sa males?
For boys naman, the main reproductive organ that needs care is the penis. It is advisable that you wash your penis and the groin area to keep it clean, of course. Poor hygiene can cause the buildup of smegma or this oily, stinking, and irritating substance that can result in inflammation. Circumcised or not, one should still wash it daily. Sure naman kami na you have been taught how to properly care for your genitals, but let this be reminders and additional knowledge to you guys. Hindi namin natackle ang everything, pero these are the basics and huwag kayo mag-hesitate na i-educate pa ang sarili nyo regarding stuff like this kasi wala namang mali about doon. Getting to know your body more is important since it is your body and you should take good care of it, di ba?
Truly! Also, kapag may napansin ka na or na-feel ka na there's something wrong with your sexual or reproductive organs, it is best to seek medical attention early. Kung kunwari merong itch, lumps, or any genital discomfort na ilang days na rin nandyan, dapat mag-seek ka na ng medical attention. Yeah, mas okay nang magpa-check up na and wag nang hintaying lumala, lalo na kapag you have been engaging in sexual activities. Speaking of engaging in sexual activities, specifically in sexual intercourse, pwedeng magkaroon ng unintended pregnancy, which is why we will also be discussing the use of contraception. Using contraceptives helps avoid unintended pregnancy, and these are few types and methods of contraception.
Oh yes, we mostly heard of contraceptives like birth control pills and condoms, pero there are other contraceptives besides these ones.
Yes, in fact, there are a lot of contraceptives. Let's start with what you have mentioned. Hormonal methods and barrier methods. Hormonal methods include the use of combined oral contraceptives and progestin pills that are for people with uterus. These pills stop the ovaries from releasing an egg each month and will be effective if you follow the given dosage of your doctor. Next is the barrier methods. This uses male or female condoms. Condoms work by stopping the sperm from getting into the uterus. This also reduces the risk of contracting or transmitting sexually transmitted diseases, which we will tackle later on.
Those are the most common ones, right? So, are there any other ways besides those?
Yes, there are also fertility awareness and permanent methods. Fertility awareness method is tracking your period and having sexual intercourse during the days that you are infertile or unable to get pregnant.
Ooh! Paano naman yung permanent?
The permanent includes undergoing surgery. For people with the uterus, they can get their fallopian tubes tied to prevent the egg and sperm from meeting. For males assigned at birth, vasectomy is the procedure that will be done that keeps the sperm from going to the penis.
True ka dyan. Dagdag kaalaman na rin naman yan. Pero syempre, yung procedures ng paggamit ng mga contraceptives na to ay hindi lang basta-bastang ginagawa. Meron ding mga measures na kailangan i-consider like baka magkaroon ng allergic reaction sa pills or kung gaano ka-effective yung contraceptives.
Yes. Kailangan din ng medical consultation from a doctor para safe. And speaking of safety, when engaging in sexual activities, specifically in sexual intercourse, important din na cautious tayo sa sexual health condition natin at ng partner natin. Because if we don't, we might catch or pass on sexually transmitted diseases or yung tinatawag na STDs that we did not know that we or our partners have.
Oo nga. Pero, what are the types of sexually transmitted diseases? Kasi, napag-aralan na natin yan dati, di ba? Pero halos nakalimutan na ata natin. Ang naaalala ko na lang kasi is yung HIV.
Okay, let me enlighten you guys on that. But first, what is an STD? STD, quote, is used to refer to a condition passed from one person to another through sexual contact. A person can contract an STD by having unprotected vaginal, anal, or oral sex with someone who has the STD. But STDs can also be transmitted by sharing needles and breastfeeding.
Ay talaga? Akala ko through sexual activities lang yan nakukuha or napapasa. Pero pati din pala sa pag-share ng isang needle at pag-breastfeed. Now that I think about it, it does make sense.
Yes, and there are a lot of STDs such as chlamydia, syphilis, HIV, just like what Mark said, gonorrhea, pubic lice, trichomoniasis, herpes, and others. But these are sexually transmitted diseases that are most known. And here are signs and symptoms that might indicate that you have STD. There are sores or bumps near your genital area. You have painful urination, unusual vaginal bleeding, discharge from the penis, pain during sex, sore and swollen lymph nodes, particularly in the groin area, lower abdominal pain, fever, and rash over the trunk, hands, and feet. Pero iba-iba rin symptoms for specific types of STDs. But these are the common ones. Kaya kapag may nararamdaman ka ng ganito, pa-check up ka na agad para maagapan man if ever na, meron ka na pala na STD.
Yeah, I agree. Lalo na kapag you're engaging in many sexual acts kasi delikado rin yan at makaka-apekto para sa'yo in the near future. Kaya dapat laging safe ang sex dahil para rin ito sa health ng reproductive organs natin.
True lahat ng mga sinabi niyo, besties. We have to really look after our bodies in general para syempre comfortable tayo with the things we do with our bodies. Parang ito na rin yung sinasabi nilang be comfortable in your own skin.
Now that you've mentioned that, it is great to be able to flaunt our bodies and express ourselves the way we want.
We have also mentioned the term sexual orientation, gender identity and expression, or SOGIE, quite a few times now and in the past episodes. So ngayon, kailangan naman nating i-discuss ito and other terms related to it para mas makilala pa natin ang sarili natin, learn about gender diversity, and become better allies for the LGBTQ+ community.
Yes, and in addition, learning about the concepts revolving around sexual orientation, gender identity and expression, or SOGIE in short, can help reduce the prejudice involving SOGIE and create a safer environment for all.
This is my favorite topic in sex education, to be honest. Kasi natututunan natin kung gaano karami yung mga kasarian na meron and how diverse humans really are. Medyo complex siya dahil humans are complex beings nga naman, di ba? Nag-i-evolve tayo and kasama na rin doon yung pag-evolve ng mga constructs about sexuality and gender.
Recently lang, di ba, diniscuss yung topic na to sa values class natin.
Oo, at napakaganda lang kasi nakikita natin na may progress na talaga about being open sa mga topics na to. Lalo na't conservative ang Pilipinas, di ba?
True, pero hindi pa dito dapat nagtatapos ang pag-progress natin ni hindi pa man nga accessible para sa lahat ang sex education.
Tama. simulan na natin ang pag-define ng terms and concepts about SOGIE. First, let's define the letter S and O, which means sexual orientation. Ang sexual orientation, ito yung parang nagde-describe sa emotional, sexual, and or romantic attraction mo to another person. It is different from a person's sex, gender identity, and gender expression, kaya wag tayong malilito. A person's sexual orientation can be asexual, aromantic, bisexual, gay, lesbian, pansexual, queer, or straight. Let's define these sexual orientations later. But basically, tayong lahat can be attracted to men, women, both, neither, gender queer, or other gender identities. And yung ibang unfamiliar na terms din na ito ay i-define natin later.
Ako na magsisimula with the term asexual or ace. Asexual people experience little to no sexual attraction to others. Hindi ibig sabihin nito na hindi na sila nag-engage in sexual intercourse. They can experience no sexual attraction but still have sexual activity.
Correct. Meron din mga aromantic or aro. Ito naman, they have little or no romantic attraction to others and or have no interest in forming romantic relationships with others. There are people who are either aro or ace, pero meron naman din mga both. Ito yung mga tinatawag nating aro-ace people. Next naman is our bisexual people. If a person is attracted to people of their own gender and people of other genders, then it means they are bisexual. A common misconception about bisexuality is that bi people are only attracted to males and females kasi nga raw bi, which means two. That is actually wrong. Bisexual people can actually be attracted to two or more genders. And no, hindi confused or undecided lang ang mga bisexual people.
So true. Bisexual people are really valid. Sunod naman is the term gay. Gay people generally refer to those who identify as men that are attracted to men. Minsan din ang tawag sa kanila is men loving men. Sometimes, gay is also used as an umbrella term for all homosexual people or people who experience same-sex attraction. Pero ngayon, hindi na commonly ginagamit ang term na homosexual kasi they see it as a medicalized term na.
Moving on naman sa mga lesbians, lesbian people are those who identify as women or yung mga hindi nag-identify as men, who experience attraction to women. Sometimes they are also called women-loving women. Ang pansexuals naman, sila yung mga nakaka-experience ng attraction to people regardless of their gender identity, biological sex, and sexual orientation. Next term naman is queer. Dati yung term na to is actually used as a derogatory term for the LGBTQ plus community, pero they were able to reclaim it and redefine it as a protest daw against our heteronormative society. And speaking of heteronormative, itatakal yan mamaya. The term queer is used as an umbrella term for the LGBTQ plus community because it encompasses those whose sexual orientation or gender identity does not fit the societal norms.
I like this term. I think it is very inclusive para sa lahat ng LGBTQ plus community.
Yes, pero add ko lang din, hindi lahat ng members of the LGBTQ plus community ay ginagamit or in-embrace tong term na to dahil nga dun sa na-mention na history about dito. Hi, thank you guys. So tapos na tayo sa letter S and O ng SOGIE. Next naman, i-define na natin yung letter G and I. Letters G and I stand for gender identity. Pero ano naman muna yung gender? Well, gender is the attitude, feelings, and behaviors that society and different cultures associate with a person's sex.
Kumbaga, gender is a social construct, di ba?
Yes, that is correct.
Di ba, madalas din na i-interchange yung sex and gender. Nakakonfuse tayo dito kasi, di ba, sa mga fini-fill out nating forms, either gender or sex nakalagay. At madalas same lang yung nilagay natin sa both like F or M, di ba ganun?
Dati akala ko synonyms lang sila, ganun or what.
Kaya nga.
Ako rin nga eh. Pero magkakaiba ang meaning ng sex, gender, and gender identity. Ang sex natin, ito yung nililabel or ina-assign sa atin ng doctor pagkapanganak natin. Makikita natin ito sa birth certificate. Ina-assign sa atin yung sex natin based on our hormones, chromosomes, and genitals. Ibig sabihin, hindi lang sa genitals madedetermine yung sex natin. Most of the time, ina-assign tayo as female or male. Pero merong ibang tao na hindi nag-fit in or ambiguous sa definitions ng pagiging male or female yung reproductive anatomy nila. Sila yung tinatawag nating intersex.
Yes, kaya hindi lang talaga male and female yung mga categories ng biological sex.
Merong term na hermaphrodite, di ba? Parang same yung definition nila ng intersex.
Yes, same lang ang intersex and hermaphrodite. But intersex is the more politically correct term. Ang gender naman, tulad ng sinabi ni Mark kanina, ito yung mga characteristics, standards, and stereotypes kung paano mag-act yung males and females. Last sa tatlo is yung gender identity. This is your internal feeling or sense of being female, male, both, neither, or another gender. Yes, there are people that identify themselves outside the gender binary. Gender binary is the idea that there are only two genders, which is yung male and female. Ibig sabihin lang nung kanina, they are not exclusively male or female, or in between sila ng gender binary or beyond the gender binary. The umbrella term for these gender identities is called non-binary or NB. Non-binary people may identify themselves as gender fluid, agender, and genderqueer.
Ganun pala yun. Non-binary kasi wala sa gender binary, di ba? Kaya non-binary.
Tama ka dun. Tapos yung agender naman, yun yung kapag a person has no gender. Meron ding bigender, ibig sabihin yung gender identity niya is composed of two genders. Gender fluid people naman do not have a fixed gender, meaning pwedeng iba-iba yung nararamdaman nilang gender, kaya fluid. Yung gender queer naman, like the term queer earlier, these are the people na wala sa gender binary ang gender identity nila.
Parang yung iba dito hindi masyadong familiar sa atin, no? Ito kasi yung mga terms na hindi masyadong tinuturo sa atin. Like sa school, ganun.
Oo nga, and I think marami ang hindi pa aware sa mga yan.
Ako actually, natutunan ko lang yan sa internet. Kasi hindi kasi masyadong natuturo talaga sa mga schools yung ganito.
Ako rin, same. There are some people naman na whose gender identity matches their assigned sex at birth. Ito yung tinatawag nating mga cisgender people. Same lang yung gender identity nila and yung biological sex nila. While transgender people, sila yung mga hindi nagmamatch yung gender identity nila sa assigned sex nila. Transgender or trans is also an umbrella term para sa gender identities na hindi male or female. So some non-binary people identify as trans kasi nga hindi match yung gender identity nila sa assigned sex nila. Pero not all non-binary people identify as trans. Ito yung mga non-binary people that partially identify with their assigned sex. Ngayon ko lang na-realize yung dun sa part ng non-binary trans people. Akala ko kasi parang yung mga transgender people, ito yung mga nag-identify lang as the opposite ng assigned sex nila. Pero mali pala yun. Yeah, that's wrong. Pero okay lang naman yun. Maganda na natututo tayo right now habang nagdi-discuss or nag-usap tayo about dito.
Yeah. Minsan din nako-confuse yung ibang tao about sa transgender tsaka same gender loving people. Kunwari, yung mga gay people, sinasabi nila na babae sila by heart, ganun. Hindi po nag-identify as babae ang mga gay people.
Yes, tama. Basta tandaan natin, walang kinalaman ang sexual orientation sa gender identity. So, ibig sabihin nito, trans people can still experience same gender attraction or opposite gender attraction or other sexual attractions. A trans woman can be lesbian and a trans man can be gay.
Ano naman pinagkaiba ng transgender sa transsexual? Di ba may ganun din? Medyo hindi pa ako familiar doon kahit naturo na siya sa class.
Transsexual people, yung mga transgender people na nag-transition by undergoing gender-affirming procedures or surgeries or other medical interventions. Kaya not all transgender people are transsexual, pero all transsexual people are transgender. At dahil na-mention ko na rin ang transitioning, let's talk about it. Transgender people choose to transition para they can fully live talaga yung true gender nila. Transitioning includes social transition, which is yung pagpalit ng name and pronouns. Medical transition, kung saan nag-undergo ng hormone therapy or gender-affirming surgeries. And yung legal transition, which may include yung pag-change ng legal name and sex sa government identity documents.
So hindi lang pala surgery ang way ng pag-transition?
Yes, hindi lang yun yung way. Pwede rin mag-start sila magpalit ng clothes, hairstyle, or gumawa ng other things para sa appearance nila. Minsan happy na sila sa pag-transition without the medical interventions. Pero minsan meron ding mga gusto ng medical transition. Pero hindi lahat may privilege para makagawa nun. Kasi ang mahal ng medical expenses, di ba?
True. Kaya sana makatulong tayo, pati ang government, para sa kanila. Kasi there are some transgender people that experience gender dysphoria, which is included sa mga diagnosis sa Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. According sa manual na yun, transgender people experience distress dahil hindi nagko-correspond yung gender identity nila to their assigned sex at birth. At ito yung gender dysphoria. It has a significant effect on transgender people's mental health. Gender dysphoria is not a mental illness, pero dahil dito nagkakaroon sila ng depression and anxiety. And usually, required ang transgender people magkaroon ng diagnosis ng gender dysphoria para ma-allow silang magkaroon ng medical transition.
Ito pong gender dysphoria yung way para ma-discover ng transgender people na trans talaga sila?
Oo nga, at saka meron bang like age kung kailan nila malalaman na transgender talaga sila?
Yes, pwedeng malaman nila sa pagkakaroon ng gender dysphoria na trans pala sila. Pero not all trans people actually experience gender dysphoria. Yung iba, nalalaman nilang transgender sila dahil nararamdaman nilang hindi sila nag-fit in sa assigned sex nila. And nalalaman nila ito at any age naman. Yung iba, naaalala pa nila yung earliest transgender identity and feelings nila ay mula pa sa pinakaunang memories nila. Na minsan, tinatry nilang isuppress yung totoo nilang gender identity dahil sa prejudice na meron ang society against trans people. Pero doing this is mentally damaging for them. Kasi pinipigilan nga nila yung kung ano yung parang gusto nilang ma-feel talaga.
Yeah. It's saddening na they can't live their true selves dahil sa pagiging conservative at closed-minded na ibang tao, right? Some even experience hate crimes simply for being trans.
Oo nga, nakakalungkot at nakakagalit talaga. Kaya we should support and stand with our trans people.
Yes, we should
Yes,
respect
yes, I
them.
agree.
So true. Love trans
Yes!
people.
Ngayon naman, mag-move on na tayo sa letter E ng SOGIE, which means expression. Expression is how a person expresses their gender through their appearance, self-image, attributes, gender roles, and more. It is how we present our gender. We can express ourselves in a feminine way, masculine way, androgynous way, and many more. Alam naman na natin ang pagiging feminine and masculine, di ba? So, let's define androgynous expression.
Let me guess, para ba siyang in-between ganon? Like a mix of both feminine and masculine expressions?
Yes, bestie Mark, that is very accurate. Kumbaga, parang neutral yung pagka-express niya.
Add ko lang din na our gender expression is independent of our sexual orientation and gender identity. So let's stop with stereotypes, okay? People can be masculine, feminine, or androgynous kahit ano pang gender identity and sexual orientation nila.
Ay nako, tama. I think kinaugalian na rin ng mga Filipino yung mga stereotypes pagdating sa pag-express, ano? Kunwari, if a man presents themselves femininely, agad din ang iisipin na gay siya, ganun. Tapos kapag naman babae na naka-short hair, lesbian na agad.
Kaya nga feel ko halos lahat tayo nagkaroon ng gantong mindset dati, no? Dahil na rin sa kinalakihan natin.
True yan, bestie. Kaya marami rin takot mag-express differently from what is considered the norm eh.
Meron pa pala tayong hindi na-define na I think is important din. Yung coming out of the closet or simply yung pang-out. Coming out means acknowledging your sexual orientation or gender identity or being openly part of the LGBTQ+ community to other people. Pwedeng mag-come out sa maraming tao or pwede rin naman sa few trusted ones lang.
Yes, tsaka coming out is not for everyone. Some are not comfortable dahil sa environment nila, pero some people want to come out para ma-express talaga nila yung sarili nila.
Tama, at wala tayong karapatang mag-out ng ibang tao. Outing people without their consent is invasive and actually dangerous kasi they may not be surrounded by supportive people.
True, kaya nakakalungkot din isipin kung bakit ganun eh.
Oo nga, Eloise. Pero we are not obligated to come out. Kaya wag kayong ma-pressure if you are having second thoughts, okay? Take your time sa pagkilala sa sarili mo. Tsaka just be you and love who you want. You do not need to have labels tulad na lang ng mga terms na minention natin kanina.
Ay, kasi naman nun.
Aww.
Pero true naman. It is okay kung confused ka pa at nasa questioning stage pa lang or yung stage na ina-explore mo pa lang yung SOGIE mo. Wala naman tayong deadline sa pag-decide ng labels natin, right? And ang mahalaga, maging totoo tayo sa sarili natin at the end of the day. Hindi man ngayon, at least sooner, di ba?
Yes, tama.
Marami pang terms na related sa SOGIE, pero hanggang dito na muna yung pag-uusapan natin. Let's take the initiative na rin to research more about it.
Yeah, sige.
Well, isa din sa tingin ko na kailangan pag-usapan is about gender roles. If you observe your surroundings, makikita mo na gender roles are literally everywhere. Specifically here in the Philippines, parang sobrang problematic ng ating society when it comes to gender roles. To the point that the majority of Filipinos believe that men should be the ones who will court the girl. Pero diba, it doesn't really matter if sino yung manliligaw kasi if you like the person, then just go and court them if you want to, right?
I don't really get why Filipinos are so serious about stereotyping men and women. It doesn't really make any sense when you think about it.
True. Tama ka dyan, Leila. In our society, many people have this kind of stereotypes kung mapapansin nyo. And these people expect women and men to behave stereotypically, which is completely wrong. Wait lang, bago natin pag-usapan ito, alam nyo ba kung ano yung mga stereotypes for women and men?
Well, if you ask me, syempre nakahalata ko din sa society natin yung mga stereotypes sa men and women. Katulad na lang ng sinasabi nila na ang work ay duty ng mga lalaki while yung house chores are supposed to be the job of a woman. Isa ito sa mga pinakakilalang stereotype sa ating society.
Tama ka dyan. Actually, isa yan sa mga stereotypes na makikita natin. Sobrang dami pang stereotypes na meron tayo sa society natin. Just like how men should not cry while women can. O kaya, yung girls dapat mahaba yung buhok lagi. Tapos, yung boys dapat laging maikli. Di ba? di ba nga, pagdating sa kulay, parang may specified pa na dapat itong kulay na to para lang sa babae at ito naman yung para sa lalaki. Color pink is for girls while color blue is for boys. Sobrang unreasonable lang kasi ng ibang stereotypes na to. But although, siguro mas madali nga ma-identify in some cases, pero yeah, di naman kailangan na fixated lagi sa doon lang, di ba? And I believe that we should let other people express who they really are. And we should never set some stereotypes that could only badly affect that individual and their being.
Yeah, sobrang true nung sinabi mo. These stereotypes have led to problems such as poor body image, low aspirations, low-paying jobs, relationship conflict, stress-related illness, anxiety about sexual performance, sexual harassment, and rape. Kaya sobrang problematic and toxic talaga ng ating society pagdating sa ganitong mga stereotypes.
True. Tsaka may instances din na dahil sa gender roles, nag-lead ito in receiving unequal or negative treatment. Sometimes people receive unequal or negative treatment because of their gender. Some people, primarily women and girls, are still denied equal treatment on the basis of gender even though laws prohibit discriminations. Nakakalungkot talaga na naging end product ng stereotypes ng gender roles ay ang pagdidiscriminate sa gender ng isang tao.
Nakakasad nga naman talaga. Pati yung abilities and skills ng isang tao, parang nakadepend na sa kanyang gender, ganun.
Yes, exactly. It does not mean na kapag babae ka is mas below ka sa lalaki. Both boys and girls can have equal talents, characteristics, strengths, abilities. No one is above the other and no one is below the other. May isa din akong napapansin pagdating sa opinions ng ibang tao about a boy and a girl being friends. Parang our society thinks that a boy and a girl can never be friends since they believe that one of the two is actually in love with the other person, which is wrong.
Tama ka dyan, Bestie Layla. We should not jump into conclusions. And paano naman naging mali ang pagiging friends with the opposite sex? Girls and boys can be friends and respect each other. It's called platonic love.
Meron din akong kakilala na parang ganyan din yung problem niya sa school niya kasi they conclude na kapag yung two students nag-hug, hold hands, or close sila in with one another in general, kino-conclude na they are already dating and flirting with each other. Lalo na kapag opposite sex. Kasi, syempre, alam naman natin na meron tayong heteronormative society. Ito yung problema sa society natin na we often jump into conclusions without even having concrete evidences. Kaya sobrang naaapektuhan din yung mga ibang tao sa issue na to.
I agree to that. Our society has a diversity of sexual attitudes and behaviors. Some people are unfairly discriminated against because of the way they express their sexuality. We can observe naman in our society that different genders are being treated differently and unequally. Kapag daw kasi lalaki ka, dapat masculine, tapos kapag babae naman, dapat girly or girly sila mag-act. Kapag girly mag-act ang isang lalaki, some will conclude that he is gay. Well, if a girl acts tough, others will think that she is a lesbian. The way a person expresses their gender does not necessarily have anything to do with whether that person is heterosexual, gay, lesbian, or bisexual.
That's very true, Mark. Ang dami na rin nagdi-discriminate within our society and as well. And as we all know, discrimination still progresses even with laws present. While this progresses, we are not even aware that discrimination can lead to negative effects. It can lead to lower self-esteem, unequal opportunities, and physical and emotional problems. Usually kasi the people who are involved in cases of discrimination are Asians, Black people, and LGBTQ+.
Oo nga, may nakita akong article na nagsasabi na 4 out of 10 Black and Asian adults say people have acted uncomfortable around them because of their race or ethnicity since the outbreak began.
May kita natin dyan that people are sometimes discriminated against because of race, culture, ethnicity, language, socioeconomic class, age, and disability. Para kasi nagiging normal na lang para sa atin that discrimination will always be part of our life and we cannot do anything to change that. But we can still change that if we were really willing to.
People are also sometimes discriminated against because of biological sex, appearance, sexual orientation, gender identity, family, and living arrangements. People could discriminate against you just because you have a different gender from them, and nakakagalit din isipin na may mga ganun na tao. Well, in the Philippines, you can really see the majority of adults discriminate against the LGBTQ+. Di naman meaning niyan na lahat ng Filipino adults ay nagdi-discriminate. But kasi if you observe our society, most of the people that are sensitive sa topic ng LGBTQ+ are these adults.
Yes, I agree sa sinabi mo. Kasi parang lumalabas yung pagka-homophobic nila and transphobic. Not everyone is aware that may pagka-homophobic sila o kaya pagka-transphobic kasi yun nga, parang nasa ugali na ng mga ibang Pilipino yun. Well, alam niyo ba anong meaning ng homophobia at transphobia?
From what I know, homophobia is the fear, hatred, discomfort with, or mistrust of people who are lesbian, gay, or bisexual, while transphobia is the irrational fear of aversion to or discrimination against transgender people.
Tama. A recent survey from Pew Research during 2020 stated that 27% of Filipinos think that homosexuality should not be accepted by society, meaning 73% of Filipinos think that homosexuality must be accepted by society. Nung nakita ko tong article, I was quite happy to know that kahit papano, people are slowly changing their perspectives about the LGBTQ+ community, which is still a great step when you think about it. I think societies work best when different groups respect each other's preferences and ideals, and pati na rin your rights. As long as we have respect for each other's problems, discrimination will not appear. Everyone can express themselves in their own way, and we do not have any right to discriminate against them. Dapat alalahanin natin that culture, race, ethnicity, religion, biological sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, physical ability, and age all play a role in how individuals appear, think, and behave.
That's true. I also think that to overcome this problem, people should speak up immediately when they encounter discrimination and when they see others being discriminated against. For young people who believe they are being discriminated against, they should tell a parent or other trusted adult para maitama kaagad ang mali. You must remember that there are laws, policies, and procedures that can help individuals fight discrimination.
If there are laws, policies, and procedures to fight discrimination, then it can also be used to protect one's sexuality, right?
Pag-usapan na rin natin yung about media, since part ito yung society and culture. As we all know, the media can influence the way people think and behave. Our life revolves around social media to the point that we cannot live without social media. It may sound a bit exaggerated, pero it's the truth.
Yeah, very true. We cannot resist the temptation of holding our cell phones and surfing the net. Kahit sa paggising natin, cellphone yung una nating hinahawakan. Well, ako lang ba or kayo din?
Pati bago matulog, cellphone din last na hawak eh.
Oo nga. Kaya nga the media has a profound effect on sexual information, values, and behavior. Kasi most of the time, the media presents an unrealistic image of what it means to be male or female, what it means to be in love, and what parenthood and marriages are like.
Sobrang true niyan, Layla. Like kasi kapag nanonood ka ng mga teleserye o kaya movies, it portrays that every relationship and marriage will be perfect and have a happy ending, when in reality, it can be the complete opposite. Katulad na lang ng mga movies and teleseries na mga love teams na kilala dito sa Pilipinas, such as Katniel, Linsken, and JD. Their usual love stories portray the man being rich while the woman is poor. They will then fall in love, tapos at the very end, they will reconcile and have a happy ending. This is the typical love story here in the Philippines, which is quite unrealistic.
Kaya nga, parang paulit-ulit na lang yung formula ng mga stories, no? The media also sometimes negatively portray groups of people by using stereotypes. The media usually does not portray sexuality realistically.
Oo, yung pinakamapapansin mo talaga sa every love story na movies and teleserye, yung couples are heterosexual people. The media primarily depicts and focuses on heterosexual people and relationships. At dito natin makikita kung gaano ka-heteronormative ang society. Madalang ka lang makakakita ng mga movie and teleserye na ang couple ay homosexual, and most of these movies and teleserye are not gaining popularity nor recognition. Kaya din I think our society is greatly influenced with media kasi doon na rin nasasanay yung mga tao. Dahil sa panonood ng mga media na ganito, our perceptions and opinions are influenced. Kaya ang naging result nito is that our society believes that what they see on the media portrays what happens in real life. Kaya nagkakaroon tayo ng misconceptions since the media feeds us with false information and facts.
True, ang correct and true presentation of LGBTQ+ members in media is very important. Kasi mapapakita nito na normal lang pala ang same-gender couples and others na hindi fit sa societal norms natin. Minsan din kung meron man silang representation, hindi naman ganun ka-accurate or kaganda, which does not help in making the community visible.
Ang tama mo dyan, bestie. Madalas toxic lang yung relationship or minsan yung couple puno ng stereotypes, ganun, kapag representation kuno ng LGBTQ+ members. Tsaka, another thing about the media is that there are scary people within social media or the web in general. Although chatting or meeting people online can be fun, we should be cautious kasi it can be dangerous kasi wala naman tayong talagang makakilala sa mga nakaka-chat natin mga to unless na kilala natin in real life.
True yan. Madami sa ngayon ang scammers, especially that we are in the middle of a global pandemic since wala sila magawa. Marami sa ngayon ay nagkakaroon na ng online friends kasi everyone is suggested to avoid going outside of their houses to avoid acquiring or transmitting the COVID-19.
True. And some of my mutual friends on Facebook, nakikita ko nagkakaroon na ng relationships with a person that he or she has met online lang. There is nothing wrong with that, pero syempre we still need to be careful about chatting and meeting people online since we do not know whether that person is actually a scammer or not, di ba?
Yeah, but now that we have tackled the possible misconceptions and dangers that social media brings, I think we can now move on to how we can help others clear these misconceptions by educating those people. A parent or trusted adult can help young people when media messages are confusing. Young people may need to ask a parent or trusted adult for help in determining what information in the media is accurate and what is not.
Communication plays a key role in avoiding and correcting misconceptions that the media brings. Communicating one's reactions to the media about the portrayal of sexual issues is important. This way, we can correct their misconceptions and educate them with real information.
True lahat ng sinabi niyo. The digital world is way too different from the real world and not everything we see on the internet is true. Ay, napahaba at napatagal ang usapan natin ha.
Oo nga, 1 oras na ata tayo dito eh. Pero nag-enjoy ako and special naman itong last episode natin kasi last na nga and magtatapos na yung podcast natin.
Oo nga, feel ko may miss ko tong paggawa natin ng podcast na kahit marami pa tayong ibang inaatupag, ay nahaharap pa rin natin ito.
Truly mga besties, my gosh. Proud ako sa ating lahat. Kasi, we pulled something like this off, like grade 12 pa lang tayo. But yeah, we have our own podcast and
so
stuff.
good.
It's ending now, pero again, the learning does not stop. Yeah.
Yes, Kate. Let us continue to educate ourselves because there's nothing shameful about that. Sexual education and sexual harassment are very broad topics. Kaya maganda na nagbabasa tayo about dito para makapag-educate din tayo ng iba, lalo na yung mga hindi privileged enough para matuto about sa mga ito.
Tama, dapat din nating i-apply yung mga natututunan natin sa mga actions talaga natin. Kasi 'di ba anong use ng laman ng utak natin kung hindi natin ginagamit at i-apply in real life to, 'di ba?
Yes, well said mga bestie. Well, we hope that you enjoyed and felt safe sa pag-keep up with our very short podcast series. Well, ganito talaga, everything will come to an end. Remember that you deserve to feel free. This has been your safe space, and until next time, bye-bye!
Bye!
Bye,
Thank you so
everyone.
much for your love and
Bye.
support. We love you all.
Bye-bye. I love you. Bye-bye.